Yesterday I was interacting in a chiropractic forum on Facebook and had a particularly disturbing conversation with a very successful chiropractor who will go unnamed, who sees large volumes of patients. And towards the end of the conversation, he concluded with, well, Doc, we need to simply pray to God, and He will tell us where to make our adjustments. And I thought it was tragically honest because while it's really a ludicrous statement, it's really a skeleton in the closet, if you will, for the profession, that so many, a certain percentage of the profession do not take spinal examination or the analysis of the vertebral subluxation seriously. It's like what is often pejoratively referred to as the flying seven. Technique is just, again, introducing random forces into the spine. And I had another private conversation with someone that's interested in the seminars, and that said, you know, this is one of the reasons why our profession is no longer seeing the chiropractic miracles, if you will, from days gone by, that those that preceded us in the profession, the greats in the profession, would see every day in their office. The reason why so many chiropractors were even willing to go to jail for this profession, for this service, this wonderful service, when chiropractic was not yet a licensed profession in many of the states. It was not for the ability to manipulate the spine. It was not so that we could crack joints and simply, palliate people's pain. The idea was correcting the subluxation restores neurological function. And in order to do that, those predecessors took great care in analyzing the spine, examining the spine, using x-rays, using instrumentation, using palpation, using every tool in the toolbox, because they knew this was a distinctive service. I think that it should go without saying, and yet this needs to be said. And I'll say it over and over again until the day that I retire or am no longer on this planet. Spinal examination is the most important thing that we do. And this gentleman that I was interacting with on this forum just illustrated that. I mean, as I said to him, you would never go to a surgeon that said, well, I'm going to pray. I don't know what's wrong with you, but I'm going to pray, and I'm just going to remove whatever organ God tells me to remove. Now, I'm a big fan of prayer. Anybody that knows me personally knows that I have faith and I believe in modern day miracles. Our profession, though, is really based on a skill set. Again, I feel silly for even having to say this, but the whole modality of manipulating the spine is so common now, rather than adjusting. Manipulation is a different thing altogether, and we've all discussed that amongst ourselves. And yet it's so common out there. I partly blame the schools, I partly blame, there's a lot of blame to go around. But the solution is to put our emphasis on examining the spine. We're dealing with the central nervous system. Anybody can crack joints. It's not about cracking joints. We are dealing with correcting subluxations because they interfere with the central nervous system. So why wouldn't you want to be an expert in finding those subluxations and knowing what direction you needed to introduce your force? And it doesn't take a lot of force to move a subluxation. Once you find it, it doesn't take oftentimes even audible, manipulation or cavitation. The point is moving the vertebra that is actually misaligned. Many years ago, back when I was still a student, I had the honor of producing the manual on advanced muscle palpation for our college, and then again in subsequent years being asked to begin doing seminars on advanced muscle palpation. This was one of the earliest versions of the manual. I keep it around kind of like for a keepsake. It was when, soon after graduation, when we first put this, this information out there beyond just the college. And I'm just gonna, there's been a lot that's been removed in ensuing years, in part because we wanted to condense things. But the original conclusion reads this way. In conclusion, an accurate analysis is the artistic corridor affording entrance to the gallery of technical skill within chiropractic. In other words, the entree to technique is analysis. I thought when this was first written, that was logical. That would have appealed to every student, every chiropractor. I've since found out, again, there's a certain subset or segment of the profession that when it comes to examination, they're almost patronizing. Oh, yeah, we need to examine the spine. And they go about doing the same set of adjustments, the same exact cookie cutter adjustments, which really are not adjustments to every single patient on every single visit. And I'm the last one that wants to criticize chiropractors. I love this profession, but I see that technique, everyone's putting all their eggs in the basket of technique. When I say, and will always say until the day I retire or no longer here, that put your eggs in the basket of spinal examination. As Reggie said, for God's sake, be an expert in what you do. So the corridor is analysis before you get to technique. The chiropractic adjustment then the chiropractic adjustment can be reduced to a gentle, specific force introduced with respect for the recipient, the patient, and with abhorrence for the vertebral subluxation. The adjustment becomes an accomplished liberation of, quote, the imprisoned impulse, unquote, ascending to chiropractic's ultimate purpose. Our ultimate purpose is correcting vertebral subluxations. And let me just emphasize, certainly if you're working with young children, you don't want to be introducing arbitrary forces into the spine. You want to know with confidence where the subluxation is and which direction it needs to move. I spend much more time, and I tell this to parents, much more time examining the spine than I do adjusting the spine. The adjustment is very simple when it comes to children, certainly in infants, and it takes less than a minute. With the adult spine, it's also much easier to correct a subluxation gently when you're on the right spot. The body wants to move that vertebra. But with children, I wouldn't dare introduce a force into their spine, certainly not in the upper cervical spine, unless I knew with confidence that there was a subluxation present and that I was correcting it in the proper line of drive. So let me just say it again. I really do, love prayer. I really do believe in God. What I don't believe in is somehow mixing up this idea that God is going to, well, let me say one more thing that I shared with this chiropractor. I said, I'm just about to go out and mow my lawn. I wouldn't even mow my lawn with my eyes closed, praying for God to guide me. He would expect me to use my senses. The same is true. At the very least, the same is true for professional service where we're introducing a force into someone's spine, affecting their nervous system, benefiting their entire body. And it's something that I've always been passionate about, but ever more so as students are getting out of school in great debt and they're being told they need to learn how to market themselves and office procedures and practice management, and then they're getting out oftentimes not knowing what chiropractic is or how to approach the patient other than with a group of, a series of medical tests. Chiropractic was built on the foundation of proper analysis, examination and analysis of subluxation, and then you'll build a reputation and build a practice based on your reputation for helping people.